we've never done a complete assessment to find out really what the risks are they pose to people.
I haven't seen anyone I've taken care of died from permethrin or DEET.
Like any other insecticide or any other chemical, its application carries with it some degree of risk.
We need to be applying our product when the mosquitoes are most actively flying. If they're not out there flying around, we're not going to be killing them.
It's the sound of summer in Grand Forks, the citywide spraying for mosquitoes. Grand Forks Mosquito Control has been spraying since 1995. In 2013, the city sprayed 14 times, 5 of them with the help from planes. Todd Hansen with the Grand Forks Mosquito Control says when the temperatures rise, the city is an ideal habitat for mosquitoes.
We have a flat terrain, clay soils, and we all know when the water's sitting here, it's sitting. The percolation rate is very slow on our soils, and we don't have the runoff because it's so flat. Perfect conditions for mosquitoes.
Still, some question the need to spray for mosquitoes across the whole city. Are a few mosquito bites really that bad?
A very common mosquito in this area is the Culex tarsalis. That's the most common mosquito for transmitting not only West Nile virus, but other mosquito-borne diseases also.
When you look at the data collected by Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the valley is a hotbed for West Nile virus compared with the rest of the country. Since 2002, 17 people in Grand Forks County contracted West Nile virus, and 1 person died. Dr. James Hargreaves is the city health officer and treats patients who get West Nile virus.
There's 20% who do get sick, and sometimes very life-threatening with a severe encephalopathy, which is a condition where your brain's not going to work, you can't talk, you can't think, you could become a permanent neurological cripple. You know, and the only prevention you have right now is to avoid the mosquitoes.
At least from my perspective, the risk of getting West Nile virus, which probably is not going to cause me great damage, or of getting cancer from chemicals, I choose to avoid the chemicals. I think other people may take another view of that, but I just don't think it's worth it.
Dexter Perkins is an environmentalist and geology professor at the University of North Dakota. He says people should be able to opt out of being exposed to the citywide spray.
There are a lot of laboratory tests that suggest that they have bad effects that cause cancer in laboratory animals. And so then the question is, well, how much that risk gets passed on to people when they spray them around town? And I just would rather not put up with that risk.
The adult decide program just doesn't go out willy-nilly decide to spray. The surveillance program says that we've met a certain threshold and we'll go out and spray. We have a nuisance threshold set at 75 mosquitoes on an average of 75 mosquitoes per trap per night. So when we reach that number, that would trigger a citywide spray.
If I were a betting man, I'd say we might come back in 50 years and say, oops, we shouldn't have done that. But or 30 years, or a long time down the road.
Permethrin is one of the active ingredients in the citywide spray. The Environmental Protection Agency has approved the insecticide for use in residential areas. When the city sprays, they advise everyone to stay indoors and shut their windows. But the EPA also lists permethrin as a weak carcinogen, a chemical that causes cancer. Kendall Wallace is a toxicologist at University of Minnesota Duluth.
Like with any other chemical, when you apply it, you run some degree of risk for human health effects. That degree of risk depends upon two major elements. One is the potency of the chemical, how toxic it is, and the other is the exposure. How much is your typical human, or how much are the human beings going to be exposed to it?
We apply 1 ounce of a diluted product per acre. Now, if you can imagine what 1 ounce is, spreading that over 43,560 square feet, it's very little.
By far the largest risk is long-term exposure to low levels. We have no idea what a cumulative exposure over many years does. We don't know how they interact. You know, I mean, if you get exposed to one chemical and then a different one over here, what's the combination going to do? None of that stuff's ever been evaluated.
I use it. When I go out to the woods or I'm out, I'm going to use permethrin and DEET because I see the bad events, what happens, some of the tick-borne related illness as well as the mosquito-borne illnesses.
Dexter Perkins says he'd rather put up with the mosquitoes or spray himself than see the mosquito control truck come down his street.
I don't use DEET very often, even when I'm out in the country where they don't spray for mosquitoes. But at least then it's my choice. But then I've made that conscious decision, and that's really the difference. And You know, and DEET's not good for you either. And so, but at least it's me. You know, and I don't have to listen for that truck coming around my neighborhood and then go inside and shut the windows and bring the cats in.
For WDAZ News, Cynthia Johnson reporting.